about half of girls who have gender dysphoria show autistic traits. Autism is actually associated with a smaller corpus callosum. And the corpus callosum is basically one of the main sexual dimorphic characteristics that causes personality differences between men and women.
So what? What if every single assigned female person was autistic? So what?
Why do you think it switched between something that predominantly affected young men and now it mostly affects young women at a rate that's much, much higher? Young women are also the demographic that's most susceptible to psychogenic epidemics like mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria is also like a highly problematic thing because we're talking about the femaleness is what's causing your delusion.
No, that's not what it is at all. Women are more social than men. You know, something else interesting, talking about more about psychogenic epidemics. You know, after 13 Reasons Why came out, that the suicide rate amongst 10 to 17-year-olds went up by 30%.
Yeah, that's why mental health advocates were like, wow, this is a shit TV show. It does all of the things you're not supposed to do in representing suicide.
Yeah, I know. Young people, especially young girls, that again affected young girls most, are really susceptible to this sort of thing. The fact that there's a 3,000% explosion rate.
Again, that 3,000% explosion rate is 3,000% increase in referrals. It has nothing to do with how many people are actually receiving the gender affirming care.
This is from 2023. This is about suicidal risk outcomes, but it's still inconclusive, and we're years into this right now.
Every major medical organization within the U.S. accepts that gender affirming care improves people's quality of life.
You don't usually use self-report data with people who have a large amount of mental health disorders.
That's the only way you can access their quality of their mental health. There's no objective measure to say, oh, this person's life's improving.
I mean, suicidality would be a very telling if it improved that at all.
You're talking about one study, and as Alexander pointed out, it's not uncommon to have one study.
The one I'm looking at was made last year, and it's combining 23 different studies.
Okay.
I've looked at some of those studies that report that people who start going on hormone therapy, specifically around girls, report better feelings afterwards, but they don't take into account the fact that testosterone improves your mood generally. It makes you feel more confident, makes you feel more stable, and lowers your anxiety levels.
Testosterone didn't make me feel that way.
This is another one of those things that I heard when I was first being given testosterone, like, oh, it should raise your mood. And yet I continued to struggle with depression for years afterward.
Can I ask you something? Like right now, the Mayo Clinic is still claiming that puberty blockers have no long-term, they're completely reversible. What do you
correct.
think about
as long as
claim?
you are following the guidelines for the treatment of those medications, they don't have long-term effects.
So can I say real quick, it's better to understand the body not as like a machine, but more like an unfolding symphony. And you can't just hold something back like that without expecting a number of cascading, irreversible effects.
No, that is complete conjecture on your part. You have no evidence to suggest. You have no evidence to suggest. You are literally just doing an argument from common sense. We have to conduct studies that are less than ideal for the data we would like to collect. But those things aren't the ones you're calling in about, John. Those things aren't the one that you're calling in to contest. You're calling in to contest trans stuff.